101 to 120. I can do it to 128. Yeah, I totally can. Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy, and welcome back to Stonesy Reads. Sorry about that little rant I went about, but yeah, it's just been annoying, and it's been annoying me, and, couldn't think of anything funnier for the intro. But let's get into reading, because we have a lot to read today. 8 more pages, because it's the end of the book, or end of the chapter today. So, yeah. Too bad, I was kind of looking forward to my new socks and undies. Only one thing to do, Casey said. She took out her big scissors, cut the card into tiny pieces, and scattered the confetti into the nearest trash can. On the way back to the warehouse, they passed the park. Casey heard a rustling of the leaves and glanced over to see them swirling. But that didn't mean Ballora was there, she told herself. She clenched her hands into fists and stopped herself from getting the glasses out of her pocket. The swirling leaves meant only the windy fall day. That was all. Tonight's job had to make up for the run of bad luck. They sat huddled in the warehouse, eating canned ravioli with their hands and trying to figure out what their next move. We should try the pizza place again, Jack said. People do take cash to do those places. No, Casey's response to the automatic enforceable. Why not, Jack said. Aren't you afraid you might end up with some scary possessed toy? It's not that, Casey said. She probably deserved that mockery, but she had to let the thing with the glasses get out of the control. I just don't like to get kids involved, okay? We've not done the train station in a while, AJ said. It's really easy to mix in with the crowd there and pick some pockets. It might be a good way to get our confidence back, Casey. Yeah, let's do that, Casey said. That was what she needed, an easy job. They didn't even have to go inside the station. Just wait until rush hour when a bunch of people came spilling out of the station's exit, then slip into the crowd unseen. Casey eased her way into the mass of people, scoping for prosperous-looking businessmen with wallet-shaped bulges in their back pockets. She had just found one and was reaching for it when someone grabbed her arm. She startled and saw it was Jack. He mouthed the words, "Let's go." Then she saw the flashing blue lights. She understood. A police car pulled up to the curb. Casey and AJ and Jack walked with the crowd, nice and casual, like they had gotten off the train themselves. Casey didn't breathe easy, and the blue light was behind them. Could this day get any worse? Jack said once they were in the warehouse. Bad luck always comes in threes, AJ said, holding up 3 fingers. So we've gotten 2 down and 1 to go. I don't believe in superstition, Jack said. Not black cats, not broken mirrors, none of it. It was chilly in the warehouse, warmer than outside, but still not warm. Casey decided to keep her jacket on. It was getting rappier at night, and her hands were cold. Soon she'd have to steal some gloves. She shoved her hands in her jacket pockets for warmth. There were the glasses. Where was Ballora? Was Ballora about to catch her? Was that the third piece of bad luck? Her heart pounded in panic. She ran past Jack and AJ out of the warehouse. Now the cold was at least of her worries. Outside, she put her head in her hands and paced back and forth. Finally, with a shaking hand, she reached into her pocket and took out the glasses. Because she couldn't help herself. She put them on, there, under the beam of the streetlight, only a few yards away. Ballora twirled. She was closer than she'd ever been before. Casey could see every joint of her body, each detail of her face, torso, and tutu. She was beautiful and horrible at the same time. And she was definitely getting closer. Casey tore the glasses off and shoved them back into her pocket. She sat at the cold dump curb and tried to drink. Each time she had seen Ballora, she had been a little closer. What was going to happen when Ballora got close enough to touch her? Could Ballora catch her? Casey felt like she was waiting for her punishment. She didn't know if it would be swift or sure or long and torturous. She didn't want to know.
There had to be a way to escape, Casey thought. Ballora had appeared the first time outside Circus Baby's Pizza World, the scene where Casey had stolen the glasses. Since then, Ballora stalked her throughout the city. Maybe Casey thought Ballora could only follow her in the city. There was a crime that occurred. Maybe if Casey could go somewhere else, she could leave Ballora behind. It was worth a shot. Casey waited until Jack and AJ were asleep, then sneaked into the warehouse and quietly rolled up her sleeping bag, grabbing her backpack of belongings. She took her portion of the money from the thieves' den hiding place and left Jack and AJ to rest. She wouldn't steal from them. They had been like brothers to her, annoying sometimes, but good to her in their own way. It was a long walk to the bus station. She looked at the list of departures. The next bus was headed for Memphis at 6 a.m. She guessed that she was going to Memphis. She bought a ticket and cost half of all of her money, then settled on the bench and tried to sleep a couple hours. She woke up at 4:30, aware of someone near her. She clutched her backpack to protect her belongings from people like herself. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up." The voice of shades darker belonging to an elderly lady with gray hair and a couple of shades darker than Casey's. She had on a butter yellow flowered dress and matching hair. She looked like she was going to church. "It's okay," Casey said. "I need to wake up anyway. My bus leaves in an hour and a half." "Where are you headed?" The lady settled herself down next to Casey. For a second, Casey wondered if she should tell her, but the old woman's tone would be kind and didn't see the harm in it. "Memphis," she said. "Oh, that won't be too long a trip," the lady said. "I'm going to Chicago to see my son and daughter-in-law and my grandbabies. It'll be nice to visit once I get there, but it's going to be a long bus ride. You got family in Memphis?" "No, ma'am," Casey said. "I'm just looking for a fresh start." Wasn't like she could tell the old lady she was running from a ballerina doll and possibly meant her harm. That would make the old lady move off the bench real fast. "You got a job lined up?" the old lady asked. "No, but I'll find something," Casey said. "I always do." "Good for you," the lady said, patting Casey's arm. "I'd like to see a young person with some gumption." She picked up a big straw tote bag and started rummaging through it. "You hungry, baby? I packed enough breakfast, lunch, and dinner for an army. There's no way I'm paying for bus station food. It's too expensive. And tastes bad. And it's bad for you." Casey was hungry. Hadn't realized it until the lady mentioned food. "I am a little, yeah, but you don't have to share if you don't." "I've got plenty, baby." From the bag she produced a small bottle of orange juice, cold and wet with condensation. Then she handed Casey something wrapped in aluminum foil. "Ham biscuit," she said. "You're not one of those young people who don't eat pork, are you?" "No, ma'am," Casey said. "I'll eat anything that's put in front of me. Thank you." The biscuit was homemade and fluffy, and the ham was right amount of sweet and salty and savory. It was the best food Casey had eaten in a long time. "Delicious," she said. "I'm glad you like it." The old woman patted Casey's arm one more time and rose stiffly from the bench. "I better go to the ladies' room before I get on the bus. Those bathrooms on the bus ain't no fun. I like bathroom. I like a bathroom that stays put." Casey laughed. "Yes, ma'am." It was the nicest conversation she would remember having in a long time. Old lady looked at Casey for a moment. "Listen, I know it's not my place, but since I'm never going to see you again, I might as well say my piece. You seem like a young lady who's running away from something. In my experience, sometimes if you try to run away from your problems, those problems just end up following you. Does that make sense?" Casey nodded. She couldn't look into the lady's eyes. "It's better to build bridges than to burn them, honey. Do you remember that?" The old lady tottered away, and Casey felt a chill at the prospect of problems following her, of Ballora following her. She hoped with all her heart that the old lady was wrong. Casey slept through most of the long trip she had ever taken, so she might as well enjoy the scenery. The farther she traveled, the more hopeful she felt. A fresh start. That's what she told the old lady she headed for, and maybe she really was. No more stealing, no more living in fear, no more stalked by a creepy, totally ballerina doll. Casey. Casey walked out of the bus station and into Memphis sunshine. The sign was a run-down, aqua-colored motel called the Best Choice Inn. It advertised rooms for $29.99 per night. Casey seriously doubted it was truly the best choice, but it was better than sleeping on the street, and she had $40 in her pocket. She walked into the motel's dark office and handed 10 and a 20 to a haggard woman in the house cat coat and bedroom slippers. The room had decades-old cheap paneling and once tan carpet stained by many years' worth of careless guests. But there was a double bed and cable TV in a bathroom that Casey would have all to herself. The first step in her fresh start was a shower. Casey let the hot water pound on her neck and shoulders. She couldn't remember the last time she'd washed her hair, but she had used a whole little bottle of motel issue shampoo to lather up her braids and scalp. She soaped herself from head to toe, let the jets of hot water rinse her clean. It was heaven. Casey always tried to keep up her hygiene, living on the streets, but there's no way baby wipes and fast food restroom sink could compare to a real hot shower. After she dried off, Casey brushed her teeth and put on the cleanest clothes she had. It was time to find her fresh start. Walking the streets of Memphis, she came across an old diner called the Royal Cafe, which had a hand-lettered sign in the window reading "Help Wanted." The cafe wasn't royal any more than the motel which she was staying at. The best choice. Well, she had to be realistic. How long it had been since she had worked a real job? Not since her time her famous fried chicken where she'd stolen at 20 and started her life of crime. Instead, the Royal Cafe, a bleached blonde waitress who could have been anywhere from 35 to 65, said, "Sit anywhere you want." "I'm here about the job," Casey said. The waitress turned her head and yelled, "Jimmy!" An olive-skinned man with tired eyes came out of the kitchen, drying hands and towel. His apron was stained with grease in various ages. "Yeah," he said. "She's here about the job," the waitress said. Her tone implied she didn't think Casey was a very good candidate. "You ever bust tables and wash dishes before?" the man, presumably Jimmy, asked. "Sure," Casey said. She hadn't, but how hard could it be? "Then bust pans and dish trays can be pretty heavy. You think you can handle them?" "You're an itty-bitty thing. I'm small, but I'm strong." She smiled a little. "You got a name?" "Casey." "Then you can start. When can you start, Casey?" It wasn't a very demanding interview. She haven't told him her last name. "When do you need me?" "How about now?" It wasn't like she had anything else to do. She might as well start earning money right away. "Sure, but I don't need some training or something?" Jimmy looked at her and she asked a stupid question. "You get a bus pan, you clear the dishes from the tables, then you put them in the bus pan. You hurry the dishes to the kitchen, rinse them in hot water in the sink, then load them into the dishwasher and turn it on. Return the dishes when they're clean. You unload the dishwasher, then stack the dishes on the shelves. You got that?" "Yes, sir." "Good. That's your training. It's minimum wage, paid in cash, and at the end of the week. 7 till 2, Monday through Friday, and what's one free meal per shift. That's okay with you?" "Yes, sir." The pay was low, but she'd be off work by 2, and 3 hot meal every day could help her out a lot. "Good," she said. "Get to work." A job wasn't so bad. Jimmy yelled a lot, but it was never anything personal. Casey was able to rent her room in the Best Choice Inn by the week. He got to take every advantage of the laundry room, the shower, and the cable TV, and one big meal a day at the diner went a long way toward keeping her fed. Plus, Jimmy was a good cook. He said she was too skinny, and Blue paid specials of meatloaf and turkey and dressing were starting to put a little meat on her bones. The work was physically hard, but mindless enough that she could dream of whatever she wanted. Her only problem at work was Brenda, the waitress. She met her the first time she walked in the place, seemed to have taken a dislike to her. "What's your real name, Casey?" Brenda asked her one day while Casey was bussing a table. "Sure is." She didn't look up. She just kept loading dishes into the pan. "I was just wondering because you didn't even give Jimmy your last name. He may have not have good sense, but I do." "Is that a fact?" Casey said, dumping silverware into a bus pan with a clatter. "You seem shifty to me," Brenda said, looking at her with narrow-eyed, "like you're hiding something." "Everybody's hiding something," Casey said lightly. "You up a heavy tray?" "Even if it's just their holly old underwear under their clothes." She hurried to carry the bus pan back to the kitchen. There was no way Brenda could find out about Casey's past as a thief. Fortunately, there were no arrest records since she had never been caught. Still, Brenda made Casey feel like she was being watched. It was feeling Casey didn't like. One afternoon when Casey was busting tables, she spotted 2 $5 bills lying under a salt pepper shaker. The 2 fives reminded her of the $20 bill she lifted at famous fried chicken. Her fingers felt itchy. Brenda had gone out back for a 5-minute break, and Casey was sure she hadn't seen the money. In one swift motion, she palmed one $5 bill and left the other where she was. Wasn't really stealing, Casey decided. It was just splitting up the tip 50-50 between the person who served the customer and the person who was cleaned up after the customer. Cleaning up was harder too. Customers were messy. Splitting the tip was perfectly fair. Casey promised herself she wouldn't take a habit of taking tip money. And she didn't. Not really. She was only stole when Brenda was on break or looking away. She never took the whole tip. If a customer left $3, Casey took one. If a customer left $7, Casey took two. Wasn't much, but it could help with the little things, doing a load of laundry, the motel, buying snacks and soda, having what she while she watched TV. Besides, Brenda was always mean to her. Taking a bit of her tip was like getting paid extra for a hazardous day. Today, Casey felt unusually hungry when she walked into work. She ignored the fall leaves and swirled near her left of her glasses and her jacket pocket. She swirled. She willed herself not. She willed herself not to think about Ballora, but to think about food instead. Usually she took her one free meal per shift at lunch, but today she thought she might order breakfast instead. The royal breakfast special, she decided. 3 buttermilk pancakes, 2 eggs, and an order of bacon and home fries. She was running early this morning and she would have time to eat before the first customers trickled in. When she walked into the restaurant, Jimmy and Brenda were sitting together in a booth, like they were waiting for her. They did not look happy. Casey, I'm glad you got here early this morning, Jimmy said, gesturing for her to sit down across from them. We need to talk. In Casey's experience, when someone said we need to talk, the words that came after were not going to be good. Nobody ever said, we need to talk. Hello, how was the raise in this plate of warm cookies? With a sinking feeling, Casey sat down in the booth. Jimmy folded his hands in front of him. Brenda has told me that since you started working here, she's getting a lot less money in tips. Do you know anything about that? The hunger in Casey's stomach that replaced it by fear. How am I supposed to know what Brenda makes in tips? She asked. Well, Jimmy said, customers leave their tips on the table, and sometimes the money's still on the table when you bust it, so... I know you've been stealing my tips off the table, Brenda interrupted. Her face was red with rage. Not all the money, but enough so you think I won't notice. But I do notice. I know my regular customers. I know what they order, and I know how much they tip. Casey, remember the first rule of thieves' den. If some suspect or caught, deny, deny, deny. Look, Brenda, I know you don't like me from the moment I walked through the door, and it's okay. You don't have to like me, but that doesn't mean you have to go right to accuse me of things I don't know something about. See, Brenda elbowed Jimmy. Shifty, like I said. Aren't you going to fire her? Jimmy closed her eyes and massaged his temples like he had the world's worst headache. He was quiet, and long Casey finally broke the silence and said, Am I being fired, Jimmy? Jimmy opened his eyes. You're not being fired, you're being watched. If there's anything to know, Brenda says, cut it out, or you will be fired. Now back to work. Yes, sir. Cut it out, Brenda said. That's it? Like I said, I'm watching her, Jimmy said. Then looked at the door. Here comes the early morning crowd. You better get to work, too. On the way home, Casey walked past a grassy area where the autumn leaves rose and swirled in a circle. Fine, she said to herself. Put on the glasses. There was Ballora spinning nearer than ever. Clearly, there was no getting away from her. Dizziness overcame Casey. Why? She yelled. Why do you keep following me? Several people turned to look at her like she was crazy. Was she crazy? She didn't even know anymore. That night, Casey dreamed she was sitting in a red velvet seat in a beautiful theater with a golden domed ceiling. The theater was empty except for Casey. The lights went down, setting the room into blackness. The orchestral music swelled. The lights came up on the stage, and Ballora danced out on tiptoe, and she danced to the left side of the stage, and her huge purple and gold-stained banner unrolled from the ceiling and printed the fancy letters and the words liar. Ballora put her hands to her cheeks as if startled, then lifted her arms in a long pirouette. She danced over to the right of the stage, where another large purple and gold banner unrolled. This one was printed with the word thief. Ballora put her hands to her cheeks again, then danced to the center of the stage, spun, and looked directly at Casey. She pointed at her, and one more banner appeared itself center stage. This one said, You. Casey woke up gasping in a cold sweat. She got up, threw on some clothes, yanked open the dresser doors, and stuck the rest of her clothes into her backpack along with the coffee can of cash she saved up from working at the Royal Cafe. She couldn't go back there. They were onto her. She threw a couple of bills on the nightstand to cover the rest of the rent. Then she walked toward the bus station. The fresh air calmed her a little. She shoved her hands into her pockets. There were the glasses. She decided to take one last look. This time she was really leaving Laura behind. With a shaking hand, she took them out and put them on. Laura was dancing just a few feet away from her. Casey could see every hinge, every tiny flaw in the paint job. If she walked 20 steps, the two of them would be close enough to touch. Casey shuddered and took off the glasses. Okay, I get it, she thought. I didn't really make a fresh start. I stole, and I lied about it. But I can't just get away from her. I really will start over. I will be a model citizen. The next bus out of town was going to be Nashville. Nashville. Casey thought, why not? A new town, a new job, a new start. For real this time. Once she settled on the bus, Casey sank into dreamless sleep. The Music City Motel, where Casey rented a room, had been cheap paneling and stained carpet as a motel in Memphis, but cost $5 more a night. Lying on the lumpy mattress, looking at the one ad in the newspaper, Casey told herself she needed to make a real life. She needed to live instead of just surviving. She needed a job that could give her some kind of future. She needed to make some friends, save up some money, and get that little apartment she dreamed of as a kid. Maybe she could go back to school at night and get her diploma. She could get a dog. She still wanted a dog. Scanning through the one ad, one caught her eye. No experience necessary. Opportunities for advancement. Answers incoming calls for major retail company. Must be able to communicate well. Must be able to work in busy, fast-paced environment. Start at 12 hours with raises based on merit. Open interviews Monday, Thursday, Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sounded better than washing dishes, but Casey had nothing to wear for an interview for an office job. She remembered a business communications class she had taken in high school. Then the textbook had a whole chapter of how to dress and to present yourself for a job interview. Ripped, faded jeans and old boots. The textbook had a whole chapter on how to dress and present yourself to a job interview. Ripped, faded jeans and old boots repaired with duct tape definitely weren't the ones on the list of acceptable apparel. Casey got the coffee can from where she had hidden it in the dresser drawer. She dumped all her money out and on the bed. She counted $229.76. And then she set aside what she needed to pay for her room when she few groceries she bought. She left her with $44.76. Surely she could buy something to wear with that. She set out on foot in search of a store. She figured the nice clothing stores would be on this side of town, with its cheap motels and pawn shops and bald blondsmen offices. She didn't want to spend any of her meager money on a bus ride in a mall. Besides, she wouldn't be able to afford anything in one of the nice stores anyways. And after an hour of walking, her feet aching in her battered boots, she found a store called Unique Fashions. In the window, bald, white, faceless mannequins modeled colorful dresses. Surely a store in the neighborhood wouldn't be too expensive. Casey opened the door and started a little, then a bell chimed. She passed the floor-length mirror and saw herself as she must look to other people. Her clothes old, baggy, and ill-fitting. Her face tired beyond her years. She didn't look like she belonged in the store with its bright lights and neat racks of dresses, tops, and skirts. Maybe she should just go. Let me know if there's something I can help you with, honey. the woman behind the counter said. She was around the age of Casey's mom, wearing a canary yellow dress and a bright scarf, perfectly applied makeup. Casey wondered if she would ever look so put together. Thank you, she said. Casey browsed through the racks of clothing, not sure what would be best for a job interview, not even sure of what she wore. Finally, she found the crimson dress splashed in a cream-colored flowers. She remembered that once the cute boy from high school had told her red was her color, but she knew it would look good on her. The saleslady who had been in the cash register appeared behind her, if by magic. Do you want to try that on, honey? Casey nodded. Trouble is, I have not worn a dress in so long, I don't know what size I wear. Casey looked her up and down. Well, you're no bigger than a minute. I'd try a 6, she smiled. It seemed a long time since I was a 6, about 3 kids ago. I bet I don't have any of those yet, do you? No, ma'am, not yet. Casey held on to the dress and tried to imagine a future with a steady job, a comfortable place to live, maybe even a husband and kids. Could that kind of life ever be in the cards for someone like her? It was hard to even picture what it would be like. The fitting rooms were over there, the saleslady said. Just holler if you need anything. Thank you, Casey locked herself in one of the tiny rooms and slipped off her boots, jacket, jeans, t-shirt. She pulled the dress over her head, looking at herself in the mirror. The saleslady had been right. Casey was a size 6. The dress fit perfectly, not too loose, not too tight, but the crimson and cream print complemented her skin tone. She looked respectable, like a regular person going into a regular job interview, except that she had forgotten one thing. Standing in front of the mirror, Casey looked at her bare feet, which certainly weren't acceptable in an office job, but neither was wearing battered, taped-up boots with her nice new dress. She had forgotten she'd need shoes, and shoes were expensive. Feeling discouraged, she took off the dress and put on old ratty clothes. She carried the dress with her out in the fitting room. There was a small shoe section in the back of the store, so she figured she might as well see how much a pair would cost. There were some decent-looking tan Flins in her size on sale for $21.97, but she could afford the shoes and the dress, too, even at the discounted price. Desperate, panicked, Casey looked around the store. There were no visible security cameras, and the sales lady was busy helping another customer, an elderly lady trying to on a pink suit jacket. This could be the last time, Casey promised herself. She was only doing it so she could get a job interview. She rolled up the dress in as small as she could and stuffed it into her backpack. She took a deep breath, grabbed the shoe box and flats in it, and headed to the cash register. When the sales lady came back to check her out, she said, "Decided not to get the dress? Just these today," Casey said, handed the sales lady a 20 and a 10. At least she was paying for the shoes and not stealing them too, Casey thought. Plus, they would have been difficult to fit in her bag. Sales lady gave Casey her change, bagged up the shoebox and handed her. "Thank you, honey. I hope you come back and see us soon." Then Casey approached the front door. A horrible buzzing sound filled the store. Casey's stomach knotted in fear. The dress must have some type of anti-theft device that had slammed. Caught. She'd never been caught before. "Wait a second there, honey," the sales lady called. "I must have scanned those shoes right." Casey was right about to make a run for it, but outside the front door of the store, hundreds of fall leaves swirled up fiercely in a matinee tornado. Casey didn't have to put on the glasses to know that Ballora was right in the center of the tempest. Her heart pounded in her chest. Casey knew if she bolted out the door, she'd run right into Ballora. If she was trapped, one way or the other, she was caught. At least if she was staying in the store, she might have some idea what the consequences would be. If she surrendered herself to Ballora, she would have no idea what would happen. She just kept imagining Ballora's long, sharp nails, her teeth. The buzzing alarm hurt her ears, making it impossible to think straight. "Is there a problem, Helen?" Another well-dressed woman, probably the manager, had emerged from the back of the store. In seconds, the manager and the saleslady were beside Casey. "Let me see your bag for a second," the saleslady said. Casey handed it over, hoping they would notice how hard she was shaking. The saleslady showed the manager the receipt. There, she paid for her purchase. The manager was looking at it, and Casey would see if there were any misdeed Casey had ever committed. "I think we'd better check her backpack too," she returned to Casey. "Miss, we need you to open your backpack and take a look inside. If everything checks out, you'll be free to go with our apologies or your inconvenience." Casey glanced outside. The leaves were swirling closer and harder. smacking against the glass of the door. She swallowed hard. There was no choice. Casey opened her backpack. The crimson of the dress tucked inside it and bright as blood. The dress she tried on, the sales lady said. She sounded like Casey's theft was a personal betrayal. The manager grabbed Casey's arms. Well, that's that, she said. I don't have any choice but to call the police. Casey looked outside the swirling leaves, then back at the stern faces of the two women. Her eyes filled with tears, which was strange because Casey couldn't remember the last time she had cried. Now she'd cried for all the things she lost, for all how bad things she'd done, and all the good things she'd ever gotten to experience. Please, Casey said, sobbing. Don't call the police. I need the dress, the shoes for a job interview, but I don't have enough money for both of them. So you thought stealing the dress was a good solution to the problem? The manager was holding Casey's arm. I knew it wasn't a good solution, Casey said through her tears, but I knew it wasn't a good solution, Casey said through her tears. It was the only solution I could think of. I'm so sorry. There were all those tears coming from. It was like she was a human waterfall. I have a solution, a voice came from behind them. It was an elderly woman. The sales lady had been helping her there. Her hair was perfectly groomed, and she was dressed elegantly in an ice cream colored pantsuit. I'll buy the young lady the dress. Mrs. Templeton, we couldn't let you do that, the manager said. Of course you can, Mrs. Templeton said. I spent a lot of money at this store. I'm a good customer, and a customer is always right. She smiled at the manager and sales lady. Right? Right, the manager said, but she sounded reluctant. Good. Mrs. Templeton opened her purse and took out her wallet. Now there's no need to call the police, and this young lady can get to her job interview. What if there isn't a job interview, the manager said. What if she's lying? Mrs. Templeton looked Casey up and down. Well, that's a risk I'm willing to take, but I think she's telling the truth. She has an honest face. She was just in a desperate situation. She didn't use her best judgment. Thank you, Casey said, tears still flowing. I'll pay you back when I can. Nonsense, Mrs. Templeton waved off Casey's offer. You just help out somebody else when they need it. Casey walked out of the store through the swirling leaves. As she made her way down the street, she was still crying and drawing concerned looks from passers-by. She couldn't explain it, but she felt like she was changing, like something had heard inside her was softening and breaking up. She stopped at a park and just rest for a few minutes. She was tired from all the walking and all the streets and fear. She sat on a bench, and her hand reached into her pocket for glasses before she could even know what she was doing. Had she lost Laura after the woman in the store and made things right? No, she was right there. Laura stood before her, twirled, just a little more than an arm's length away. She seemed to stare at Casey with her blank blue eyes, and then she spun and spun, creating a breeze Casey could feel on her face. She was close enough to touch. Why, Casey yelled, why can't I not get rid of you? She shoved the glasses in her pocket and ran. She ran away from Ballora, even though in her heart she knew Ballora was right there with her. She ran into the Music City Motel and locked the door behind her, panting. The words of the old woman at the bus station came back to her suddenly. Sometimes when you try to run away from your problems, the problems end up following you. Scratch, scratch. The sound of it coming from the window. Casey pulled back the curtain and saw nothing. Then she put on the glasses. Ballora was pressed against the window, her face pretty at a distance. It was terrifying up close, split down the middle, with a gaping red mouth and glowing eyes. Eyes which Casey thought saw right into her soul. Vallora's long blue painted fingernails scraped against the glass with a horrible metallic screech. Casey backed away from the window. Okay, Ballora, Casey said, please, just let me go to the job interview first. Then I know what I have to do. Ballora said nothing, just watched with her glowing blue eyes. Casey sat down in the bed and dug around her backpack until she found she was looking for the driver's license of the woman where the purse she had stolen outside Circus Babies of Pizza World. Sarah Avery, that was the name of the driver's license, and there, where Casey was standing in the new crimson dress and the tan flats, was Sarah Avery address. In a split-level suburban home, not too fancy, not too nicer anywhere Casey has ever lived. But it hadn't been easy getting here with no bus fare, but Casey finally met a long-haul truck driver who was headed that way, willing to let her ride along. Casey had slipped on the glasses once during the trip, and I'd seen Belora's face pressed against the passenger side window, still watching her. As Casey stood on the walkway in front of the house, working up the courage to go and ring the doorbell, the fall leaves swirled around her. She didn't put the glasses on, but she felt Belora behind her, sharing the space in an eye of the tiny tornado. Belora was close enough to touch, waiting for Casey to lose her nerve. Casey took a deep breath, walked up to the door and rang the bell. Leaves blew past her in a giant whoosh, and Casey felt a sudden unfamiliar sense of calm and peace. A small woman with brown hair opened the door. She was wearing track pants and a t-shirt from a 5K run of charity. "Hello," she said, sounding a little puzzled. "Hi." Casey's voice quavered. "You don't know me, and this is really awkward. Do you remember that time a couple of months ago when your purse got stolen from the Circus Babies Pizza World?" "Sure, it was terrible. Nobody forgets something like that." She knitted her brow and looked at Casey. "Are you the police?" She was far off track, but Casey couldn't help but smile. "No, actually, I'm the thief who stole your purse. The ex-thief, that is." The woman's jaw dropped. "You? But you looked so nice. Where did you come here?" "I came because I wanted to give you this." She pulled Sarah's wallet from the backpack. "I'm sure you've replaced your license by now, and your old one is in there. There's $20 in there, too. My first installment of paying back what I took from you. I have a job now. I start on Monday. I'll send you more money after I get my first paycheck." Sarah took the wallet. "This was amazing. What made you decide to do this?" Casey thought of Laura spinning wildly. "I guess somebody finally scared me into doing the right thing. I've changed, I mean. I'm still changing, and I wanted to say I'm sorry and ask you if you could ever forgive me." "Of course I can," Sarah said. "A few people admit they have done wrong. It's refreshing to feel apology. Consider yourself forgiven. The matter of fact, I was just making some tea. Would you like to come in and have a cup with me?" "Me?" Casey said, as though there was somebody else Sarah could be talking to. "Aren't you afraid I'll rob your house or something?" "As a matter of fact, I'm not. Come in." Sarah held the door open, and Casey walked into the bright, sunny house. The big brown dog greeted her, wagging its tail. In the kitchen, the little girl Casey remembered from that night, sitting on the table, coloring a picture of the carry-ons. She looked at first at Casey, then at her mom. "Mommy, do we know this lady?" she asked. "No, sweetie, but we're going to know her," Sarah said, pouring a hot water into the mugs for tea. Casey smiled in some ways. She felt like she was getting to know herself. "I'm Casey," she said to the little girl. "I'm Isabella," the little girl said. Her eyes were big and blue, like they were bright and lively, not blank and like Belora's. "Isabella, I think I have something that belongs to you," Casey said. Isabella hopped down from her chair. "What is it?" Casey reached into her bag, pulled out the cardboard glasses, and held them out to Isabella. Isabella hopped down from her chair. "What is it?" Casey reached into her bag, pulled out her cardboard glasses, and held down out for Isabella. Isabella's wide blue eyes grew even wider. "It's my Belora glasses. It's my Belora glasses that got stolen, Mommy." Sarah set 2 mugs of tea and 1 cup of juice on the table. "Stolen, not stoled. But you're right. I tell Casey thank you for returning them." "Thank you for returning my glasses, Casey," Isabella said, smiling at her. Casey smiled back. "You're welcome." Casey knew she didn't need them anymore, and besides, they had always really belonged to Isabella. Isabella put on the glasses and let out a little gasp of surprise. "There she is," Isabella said. The little girl stood in the moment, glasses on, her mouth agape in wonder, and then she started to dance. Such a nice ending for once. Every other ending is someone dying, someone being decapitated. Nope. This one's a happy ending. Maybe if you look into it too much, maybe the girl got taken over and now she's Belora and now she's gonna die. Maybe Isabella's one of the
few kids that died in 87, blah, blah, blah. Maybe. But, it's still a very refreshing ending. But, yeah. The lesson I can give is a lesson that's very open in this chapter, and it's basically just look at the cards you're dealt and persevere, which is actually a quote from Breaking Bad. So basically, look at what you're dealt with in life and use it to the fullest possibility. So it's like she was dealt a thief, tried to do better, became a thief anyway, tried to do better again, then realized from her actions of times of being good and not being a thief to do better. So take the lessons you learn in life and see them as they are. Don't just go, well, okay, and just continue on. Anyways, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you really want to. I don't care. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the reading today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.